Hello everyone and welcome to another News Coolum video. I'm here at a familiar place. It's a ChargePoint 7-Eleven deployment out in West Sacramento, just off of Interstate I-80, connecting Sacramento to the San Francisco Bay Area. And I wanted to stop here while I was doing some shopping and running some errands because ChargePoint has made a significant update to this site. And it's one that I think is going to be really important for the EV community moving forward. I wanted to give ChargePoint some credit because they're really getting beat up right now. Their stock prices are being pushed down. They're one of the most shorted EV stocks on the market right now, and it doesn't appear like they're being shorted by people outside of the EV community. Rather, they're being shorted by people within the EV community that seem to have interest in other EV stocks. So I'm not going to name which ones, but it should probably be pretty apparent. Even outside of, and I don't mean for this to be financial advice, don't necessarily say this, run out and buy ChargePoint stock or anything. But I do find it funny that financial analysts outside of the EV industry have higher price targets for ChargePoint than experts within the EV community. So there does seem to be some tomfoolery in the market, and ChargePoint is getting beat up because of it. And it's not something that we, if you're an electric vehicle advocate in any way, want to see happen, because we really need these charging provider companies to be healthy and operating at their full capacity. And when they can't borrow against their shares, that's a real problem, and it could pose an issue for the business moving forward. But what I wanted to talk about is they're starting to make a move now, and they're the first public charging provider to do this, which is to start deploying SAE J3400 plugs. And this is probably one of three things that I think ChargePoint needs to be doing to really right the ship and get their company moving in the right direction. And unfortunately, this is probably the least important of the three, but it's the one thing that actually looks like they're starting to do well. So they're deploying these J3400 plugs. They have over a dozen stations at this point in California. And this means that this station at this point, because they're starting to pull the CHAdeMO plugs, there's only one station at this 4-charger installation that has CHAdeMO remaining, but I think that's fair. We're down to just a few, maybe several 100,000 CHAdeMO EVs between the Nissan Leaf, all the others, the EV conversions that get driven enough that they might actually need to use these CHAdeMO plugs away from home. So shifting down to 1 or 2 CHAdeMO plugs per site's probably not a big deal. Replacing them with this J3400 plug, however, now means that these chargers can charge 90 to 95% of the EVs on the road. Unfortunately, if you're a Tesla owner who hasn't had the CCS upgrade yet, you cannot use these plugs because the J3400 standard is not the Tesla standard, and I hate to break it to people who keep saying this, NACS does not exist. There is no North American charging standard. Even SAE on their website refers to it as the North American charging system. It's not a standard. So we could go through the whole history of it. Yes, Tesla was sitting in with CCS during their development meetings, and so they started with the same DIN spec. I forget, it's 70 something, I'll put it on the screen. They started with the same DIN spec as everybody else, but they went their own way. Well, CCS continued to evolve, and it's arguably at this point CCS is a more mature, more feature-rich standard than Tesla's native standard. And so that's probably the biggest reason Tesla made that switch too and started adopting ISO 15118 for the plug-and charge capability and the grid tie, power feedback capability. Why reinvent the wheel if CCS has already established that as a standard, right? So it makes sense logistically, and really as a consumer, we should be fine with this. We're getting the best of both worlds. We're getting the Tesla plug format, which is a smaller, easier to use plug with the robust safety, feature-rich, protocols of the CCS standard, and then throw into that an upgraded J1772 that can now actually handle 277 volts. It's the best of all of those worlds for the consumer. But what it means is there needs to be a little bit more education than what's happening, because as a Tesla owner, if you want to use these natively, you're going to need to do the same thing you'd want to use if you wanted to do a CCS1 adapter. You have to have that CCS upgrade, because that's all this is. It's Tesla's plug upgraded for 800 volts with the CCS language and protocols built into it, which is why I was able to grab my A to Z EV Typhon, whatever, plug adapter. I'm still not authorized to use the Tesla superchargers, so that adapter is basically worthless for me, but I wanted to use it to demonstrate the fact that any CCS1 EV with that adapter can use these cables. So even as we make a transition, right, these adapters are going to be more important mostly for CCS1 EV owners who buy an EV today and know that in 5 years, 10 years, the majority of the plugs being deployed are then going to be this new J3400 plug. Either way, though, I think this is a great win. And I mentioned this being one of the 3 things that ChargePoint needs to do to really right their ship. I think the bigger issue for ChargePoint is these CPE 250s, while they're great for the Bolt EV, while they're great for longer dwell times, and they're okay for 800 volt EVs, they just don't cut the mustard in terms of power, right? So here I am at a 7-Eleven gas station. This is a type of charger that you'd want to be in and out in probably 15 minutes. That means they need to have at minimum 200 kilowatt output, right? And these aren't going to come close to that. And unfortunately, when they do bridge, they're only bridging on voltage, not amperage, which is why an EGMP car can come in and charge at 115, 120 kilowatt, which is good. Maybe not a 15-minute stop good, but okay. But it's not going to be fast enough for the typical EV dwell time at a convenience store just off of an interstate, right? So ChargePoint really needs to up their power, and so what they need to be doing is upgrading a majority of these sites by adding some number of ChargePoint Express Plus, the 200 to 400 kilowatt chargers, either replacing some of these posts or adding another couple of stalls, and just intermixing how they do it. But they really need to start enhancing these sites with those faster chargers. And then at that point, those Tesla EV owners are going to be much more inclined to come in. Rather than getting 62.5 kilowatt, they'll be getting something closer to 150 to 200 kilowatt on those Express Plus machines. And then the big winner would be the Cybertruck owners, who would be getting over 300 kilowatts because of that 800 volt architecture. So that's, to me, the biggest thing ChargePoint needs to do. And then the other thing is they just need to up their Express Plus production capacity. They need to be able to build about 50,000 units of those a year. And I don't see them being anywhere close to that. And really, it needs to be domestic production. It can't be foreign production shipped in, which it looks like ChargePoint might be entertaining that idea. But there's a Build America, Buy America that's going to drive a lot of the EV production that you want and the EV charger production that you want. So I think ChargePoint really needs to be focusing on American production of the Express Plus units, and a minimum of 20 to 30,000 a year, and realistically a target of about 50,000 a year, because it looks like they can't even fulfill their current existing contracts for like Mercedes. And so they're going to need a lot more production of their higher power chargers to distribute and upgrade these sites. But overall, I just wanted to give this big update because, like I said, a dozen sites so far in California now have this native J3400 plug. driving a newer Tesla or an upgraded Tesla, you can use it, and pretty much everybody else can use it. And you know what? If someone goes around and sabotages these CCS1 plugs like they've been doing, if you have that adapter and you're in a CCS1 EV, well, this gives you that backup plan. So as long as they don't damage both cables, right, and as long as they don't do what, like I've seen happening, where they're targeting the CCS1 cables specifically, well then, you know, you'll have this backup option if anything goes wrong. And then of course, if Tesla ever decides to start opening their superchargers again, then you'll have that option as well. But anyway, I'd love to hear what you think. Just a quick update about ChargePoint. Wanted to give them their props. They're making a big move right now, and like I said, just higher power and more of these cables distributed, and they could see a lot more throughput or a lot more usage of their network nationwide if they can follow through on this initiative. So I'd love to hear what you think, and if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel, and thank you for watching. I got someone antsy who sees a big patch of green, so take care.